Hello and welcome to Design Stubble number 3. The Design Stubbles are a collection of design ideas to help with our thinking, and they've been put together into a series of short presentations, or what I'm calling Design Stubbles. Number 3 is about the names of things and their relationship to success, I guess, or otherwise. The girl that's illustrated, or the photograph that's shown here, is Moon Unit Zappa, and she's the daughter of Frank Zappa, the American composer and musician. And I've often thought about how a name like Moon Unit will contribute to your success or otherwise. And so, in some ways, she's led to some of the thoughts that are being presented here in this design stubble number 3. Design stubble number 2 was all about the 80-20 rule, and it strikes me that the 80-20 rule has been successful partially because it's such a cool name. 80-20 adds up to 100. It sounds like a good solution to things. Things that add up to 100 sound like well thought out solutions. If the 80-20 rule had been the 1930 or the 90-30, the 75-15, 78-23, would it have had such acceptance? I mean, the fact it adds up to 100, I think, is something very beautiful and has helped promote it. That doesn't matter for everything, of course. This only adds up to 80, and this is also quite a good idea too. Names are important. Gravitationally completely collapsed objects were known to science from 1939, and nobody outside of the scientific community were particularly bothered about them until in 1967 they became called black holes, and suddenly they were the stars of stage and screen, and they appear in movies, and everyone's got a favourite black hole. And you can see how the name of something really captures the imagination and can help drive an idea forwards. Other names, ideas for names that have come from space. This thing that you can see in front of you has prompted the name of one of the most successful consumer objects of the 21st century. And I might give you a clue by revealing to you that it's something that appeared in a 2001 Space Odyssey, and it was called an EVA pod. And it was when they were working at Apple on a secret new device, a new music device, that a freelancer that was working there noticed the similarities, visual similarities between this thing that he remembered seeing in the movie A Space Odyssey, and in fact what they were producing, the iPod. So the first generation iPod has a visual relationship to the thing that was seen in the movie, and that's where that name came from. But and it's a good name, but not all names come from outer space. Some come from out of the sea. This is an illustration of part of the tale of Moby Dick, and the person that you can see on the very front of that boat, this guy here, has in fact inspired one of the most popular names of business that you can come across on the high street. His first mate, Starbuck, and Starbuck was at least was a partial inspiration for the chain of coffee stores, of course, that is called Starbucks. Here they are. This is their first logo. The logo with the name, with the illustration, has been developed and moved into something a bit more acceptable like this. It's quite interesting to see how, as a name and as a business gets more successful and more exposure, how you have to start to adapt that design. A very interesting way that a name has been used in business and in the development and design of a product was the way that Nintendo started to talk about the new games console that they were bringing out, calling it the Revolution. It seems to suggest that what they were bringing out was something that was going to be have a greater graphics card than anything that came before it. That the performance would be spectacularly high. It was a real name that appealed to people who were keeping an eye on the gaming market at the time, and thinking that, well, Nintendo was going to produce this really powerful machine that was going to be able to take over the industry in one fell swoop. But what Nintendo were doing, in fact, was misnaming their products on purpose at the design and development stage. So when they actually released the games console that they had in mind, and they ended up calling it the Wii. First of all, of course, there was a bit of a shock to people who had heard that the Nintendo were bringing out this games console, expected it to be one thing, and it ended up being this thing called the Wii, which was a complete revolution, but it wasn't really going in the same direction that Nintendo was successfully misled the competition in the direction that they were going. They brought out the Wii, and the Wii again is a wonderful name. It has the idea of inclusion, the idea of we-ness, togetherness, and also when you write it and spell it in the way that they have on the box there, you can see it's two people standing next to each other. A very clever use of the name when it finally came out, and also a very clever use of the name that was the development name they were using to misplace and put their competition on the wrong footing. On the internet, there's some great brand names on the internet, and one of the most successful, certainly most profitable companies on the internet is eBay. And where did that name come from? This guy here, Pierre, how would I say that? Omidyar. He is well known as the world's richest Iranian. Well, he's American Iranian. I think he was born in Paris. I think I'm right. And he wanted to call his company Echo Bay because he had a consultancy company called Echo Bay, and he wanted to register the name, the domain name, and it had been taken. So he just had to name it eBay, and he just named it eBay, and he just started this trading surface. Wondering if he got the name right, being a bit, I suppose, a bit disappointed that he couldn't actually use the name that came from his consultancy practice, so he just had to kind of call it eBay. This guy, as I've looked into him, he's quite an interesting person because at a time when we're all being told that we should blog a lot and we should Twitter a lot and we should make sure our Facebook profiles are updated. When I was looking into him, he was quite happily running a blog where he was committing to only update it once every 3 years. For someone that we look towards as this great guru and great god of how everything should be and has turned out on the internet, it's quite refreshing to see that he's only updating his blog once every 3 years. I guess he's got kind of better things to do with all the money that he's earned so far. So with eBay, the interesting point I think for eBay is that when they sold their very first item, the very first item they sold was a laser pointer, and Pierre had this big problem because he wanted to make his first sale. He made his first sale, and it was a laser pointer that someone had bought for $14.83, but it was broken. So he felt very, very bad about this, and he wrote to the person. He said, "Look," he said, "I'm afraid to say that thanks for my very first sale, but the laser pointer that you have brought is actually broken. Do you still want to buy it?" And the reply came back saying, "That's okay. I'm a collector of broken laser pointers." And this just goes to show that, of course, the purpose of this design stubble is just to say that, of course, it's not the name that ultimately matters. The name is kind of a nice to have. Who would have thought a company with the name of eBay would have been particularly successful? But it's the idea, isn't it? If there are people out there collecting broken laser pointers and someone can set up a service that helps with that, then then that is a great business idea, and the name can follow on second. So thank you very much. A name is important, but it's not everything.